Good evening.
Good evening. Om Shanti.
Hello. And Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, sister.
Yes, very nice to be with you.
Same here.
Recognizing many friends. So this evening, there are few changes. Not so many, but most of you know there's usually a sister who is introducing the topic, sharing all the announcements with you. So right now we have 2 programs here at the center at the same time. So we are adjusting a little bit. So on behalf of the Meditation Center, I welcome everyone. And we have also 2 sisters here at the center. Today was a full day. Today is a full day. And the day didn't go the way I had planned it, the way I had, the vision I had for it. However, are you coming here? The meditation course is upstairs. Yeah. However, and I feel very happy about it, that I can say that I am still happy. I feel very good inside. And a lot I attribute to the fact that I have learned over the past years not to blame anyone or anything, including the self. So that is our topic for tonight. Moving out of the blame game. Do you like the topic? blame is something, it's a very common habit. The majority, almost everyone, is entertaining this game. But how do we feel after some time when we blame someone, something, for something? What is going on? Why are we doing it? What is going on? What's the dynamic here? And what are ways what are different ways? How can we move along in life without blame?
I think that one of the reasons that a person, myself, I'll say, would do that is because I'm not ready for whatever reason to accept responsibility for the part that I played in this situation. It's much easier to point the finger and not look at my part. And it's a non-beneficial state of being.
Mm-hmm.
It has no benefits because it stagnates my growth and it causes, I guess, disagreement, confusion, some kind of block between myself and the other person.
Right. Thank you for that sharing. Yes, that is very much the case. When we blame, we are putting the responsibility actually on someone else. We are making someone or something responsible for how I feel, for what is going on with me, what is my experience. So, Sonia, yeah, you're not here for the meditation course. Okay. No. Sorry. So when we blame someone, then we are making that one responsible for our own experience. And it's a very common thing. Basically, these are excuses for not taking responsibility ourselves. And why we are doing it, many times, this is what I have learned when I grew up. Everyone around me was pointing fingers to someone. It's a habit, so we just keep doing it. Ignorance is probably another reason. We are simply not fully aware. Maybe we know about it. We know about that whole aspect of blaming. Maybe we even talk about it, but maybe I'm not seeing it so much on my own self, right? Not recognizing when I am actually doing it. So it's some kind of blindness, ignorance also. And so in an ordinary way of living my life, typically our attention is always actually extroverted outside of us. And we are living in a very superficial way. Even considering the self, we are coming from a very superficial way, from the surface level, not really being connected to my essence, to my inner truth. And there are different reasons. It's a development that has occurred over a long period of time. And in this world, everything is pulling us outside. Everyone is, in a way, advertisement is the whole advertisement industry is doing a fantastic job in telling us how we need to look like, what we need to wear in order to be fashionable, in order to be a woman, in order to be accepted. So then societies, dependent on the society, culture, religious background I'm growing up or I'm belonging to, there are also certain directions, right? People want us to be in a certain way. And of course, when it comes to, you know, it becomes very convenient then to say, so and so, such and such, because of this, because of that one, or for this reason, or for that reason, I couldn't be or couldn't do or be in a certain way. So there are a lot of excuses, a lot of ways, different ways, how we more in a gross way or even in a more subtle way make situations, people, even God, responsible for what's going on with us. And if we behave in that manner over a long period of time, and I never take responsibility for my own self, but always point the finger towards someone or something, it depletes me more and more. I become internally weaker and weaker. My mind becomes weaker. And a weak mind, the sign that the mind has become weak is the mind, for example, mind becomes very reactive. Someone says a little bit or something, few words, or someone looks at you in a certain way. Sometimes it can be just the weather, and it triggers an unproportional reaction, unproportional to the current occurrence, the trigger. And so when we react in this way, emotions emerge, and they are typically not very healthy. It's a stress reaction, really. And there's a stress response in the body consequently. And when we blame, I'm involving someone, something into my story. They may not have anything to do with what is going on in my life. But because I put the blame on them, I think because of you, this is why I am in this situation. Because of you, I cannot do A, B, C, D. Or because you're always so loud on the phone, I cannot concentrate. How can I work in this environment? It creates conflict. It creates a distance. I distance myself from my own inner self more and more. And it breaks relationships. It doesn't foster harmony. And so all of these factors, then they accumulate over a period of time, and they certainly don't make us happy. So how to get out of this blame game is actually relatively easy. But we have to understand a little bit more about the self. One thing on the spiritual journey that we learn is a very strong guideline in the sense, something that we hear on a daily basis, to learn to hold the focus of our attention on our inner self. And for that, I need to have recognition of who I am. Because even when we go within, or when we connect to the self, then as we go inward, especially, for example, if we have been having this habit of pointing fingers, there will be certain unpleasant, maybe even awkward feelings within the self. Some thoughts about the self, some feelings about the self, about the situation, something that I'm avoiding, maybe something I don't want to face. I made a mistake, but I don't live up to it. I'm not honest enough to admit, for example, and I blame someone so that I don't have to lose my face, you know? Let's put the burden on someone else so that I'm able to maintain my image. And part of that game is also when we then start to twist the truth, the facts a little bit. Where we then either directly or slightly start to twist the fact so that it looks like because of ABCD, I couldn't be on time, I couldn't be in a certain way, I couldn't get this, for example, right? And so when we then turn inward, we don't necessarily know what to do or how to be with the self, because there are all sorts of thoughts, all sorts of feelings inside. One thing that we learn here in Brahma Kumaris is about the true self, the inner self. For example, the ocean, right? The surface, especially when the air is not so calm, there's wind. The surface of the water is not very quiet. It can be very stormy. Water can be very full of motion. But the deeper you go, the deeper you dive, what's the condition of the water?
It's quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Water becomes more and more still. Also a little bit cooler, but definitively still. And so the same is with the self. The deeper we go within, as we dive through the surface level, the conscious mind, where all the thoughts, the many thoughts, the many feelings appear like on a screen. You go deeper within. And that's where we understand that if we want to take the analogy of a house, right? The top floor is like the conscious mind, the thoughts, feelings, images that we are aware of. Then the middle section is the subconscious, and then the ground level is actually unconscious level, deep within the mind, the foundation of the house. And that is where all the goodness lies. So when we learn about the fact that we are spiritual beings, beings of light, souls, the true self, then we also understand that there are innate qualities in the being. Peace, for example, our goodness. There are 5 essential qualities that every human soul has. There's purity, peace, what else? Love, joy, there's wisdom, there's strength. And from those, many, many different virtues emerge, right? But these innate qualities is basically the foundation of the human soul, of the human being, independent of our physical identity. And when I know about it, through the practice of meditation, I can experience it. So the practice basically is to, when I meditate, to go deep within, not to be learning, not to be sidetracked by what is not useful, by what is we consider waste, unnecessary thinking, or maybe even negative thoughts. Some heaviness, some burden, some emotions. Whatever is there is okay, no problem. But for these moments when we want to meditate, we want to have a different experience. I'm looking or reaching out, touching base with the foundation of the being, the peace, for example, within. And if I connect to my innate goodness, if I can accept that I am a being of goodness, even though I don't feel it all the time, because it is suppressed by so many different layers that we have created. But if I can accept it, then this is how I learn to feel good about myself. I learn to trust myself because now I know where to go to experience peace, to feel love, to feel just very comfortable with myself. And so at the conscious level, we then make the effort to create, maintain, sustain that awareness, so that even throughout the day, I can consciously connect to this goodness, to myself, to that richness that I have within, and bring that into action. Bring that into my thoughts, bring that into action, before I even have too many thoughts about something. Because if I feel calm, quiet, peaceful, and then think about whatever I need to think about, that thought process will be much more beneficial and solution-oriented. It will bring me answers compared to when I don't remember, don't practice that awareness of being connected to who I truly am. There's some kind of agitation, there's no focus, no concentration, all kind of thoughts, some nervousness maybe, some stressful, some situation that triggers some stress responses. And if I think while I'm under stress, if I think while mind is very agitated, when I use my ability to think, to discern, to make decisions while my mind is not very happy, that thought process will be very different compared to when I first remember and emerge that peace within. And the more we learn about the self, the more you start to value these qualities. And in order to sustain it, to feel peaceful, to feel, content is actually a big one. Feel good in the evening when you go to bed and your conscience is clean, your heart is very full because of the good deeds, the good thoughts I had during the day. This is very valuable. This is very, this matters compared to when I go to bed and maybe with the bad news or some unresolved, unprocessed things that happen during the day. I won't sleep very well. Then the next morning, the same stuff is there again. I'm already, reactive when I get up, and then more things happen during the day. When we are weak within, I cannot afford actually to be honest and not to blame, because it's a sign of inner weakness when we point fingers to someone, because it's an act of deep ignorance. And when you think about, that's what I initially meant about dynamic. Think about when I point the finger towards someone, you are the cause for this, because of you. What happens to you? What are we doing to ourselves? Where is my freedom? Where is my empowerment?
It's with the person that I'm blaming because I'm saying that they have control over me.
Exactly. It's like I'm tying myself to a tree and I want to run, I want to be free. But I myself have tied myself with a thick rope to the tree, not realizing what I'm actually doing. So I am giving my power away, and my well-being is dependent on circumstances, people. So for us to actually step in our power, for us to experience an inner freedom, relationships that, good relationships where we give happiness, where we have respect for each other, where we have value for each other and for the different qualities, instead of constantly wanting something from the other one, constantly depend on the other one. So if I want to experience a life of freedom, if I want to experience a life of happiness, genuine happiness, which is connected and based on that understanding and experience of the true self, a happiness where I can be happy with myself for no reason, where I have a very good relationship with my own self, where I can give comfort to myself, encouragement. Now, this is inner strength. And when there is inner strength, then I can afford to be honest, to take responsibility. And I will look at challenges more as opportunities or a test paper. This situation has come into my life to teach me something, where I can learn something, or in terms of test paper, how far have I reached? It will allow me to make an assessment about the self. And when there is inner strength, then there are good feelings. There's a positive attitude. Shortcomings, mistakes, different kind of obstacles, they will not be really a problem for me, because my mind, in the way I am functioning internally, when there is inner strength, is that I will always look for a solution. I will think in a constructive way. I will not sacrifice my inner well-being, my inner happiness, because of a situation. So what we learn on many things, we learn on the spiritual journey. But one key aspect is to take responsibility for myself, for my thoughts, what I think, and how I feel. And if I first of all learn and accept my true self, that I am a being of goodness, now then it is possible to move into a state of true self-respect, where I am, so a sign of true self-respect is that I can see both sides. I can recognize, appreciate, acknowledge, and embrace my potential, my goodness, my qualities, the gifts, without making more of them as they are. There's no need to impress. And on the other hand, I'm also equally capable of seeing my weaknesses, tendencies, habits that are not so good. But I will not judge myself because of that. I will not blame myself. I will not feel I am less. But when there is true self-respect, I will see it, like children, little children, when they learn to walk, it's an adventure it was an adventure for all of us. We couldn't walk, we couldn't even crawl at the beginning. We had to learn that through experimentation. I had to do it. And how many times we fell down before we eventually were able to really stand on my own feet and then walk. But each time we fell down, we never got fed up. And so that kind of curiosity, that kind of interest of exploring, of learning, of improving, of learning to do things differently, think differently, see differently. So when there is that true self-respect, that I'm able to use my potential, my qualities, my gifts, my talents, abilities in a beneficial way, where I do not have the need to hide anything. And at the same time, there is the strength to face the consequences of whatever I do. Because especially in that blame game, like Sharon mentioned at the beginning, is when we shy away from the consequences of our own actions, the circumstances we are in maybe, because of our own actions, but we put the blame on something or someone. And again, that happens out of ignorance, out of habit, probably a combination of this, and weakness, inner weakness. We battle a lot with problems, with situations, even with people, because we don't know how to deal with it. We don't have the strength to do it. And also many times I find not the appropriate knowledge of how to handle people or even situations. And so instead of moving towards a resolve, instead of settling, the thing becomes bigger, because we keep engaging in the wrong way, and we are feeding what is not so healthy. So all of that, and that of course it brings conflict, it brings all sorts of feelings, but definitively no happiness, not for the self and not for the other one. So as long as I am under the influence of my wrong identity, under ego, there will be either I feel superior or I will feel inferior, but there's no self-respect. And when I come to know about my spiritual identity, about my original goodness, my blueprint, my eternal blueprint is that of goodness. And accepting that, that brings the strength back to me. Where I then gradually learn to take full responsibility for all my actions. But if there is wisdom, I will not just simply engage and do, I will also consider before I do the history, the present impact, and the consequences, which is the future. And after consideration, you will do, you will act. Is something that needs to be practiced, understood, practiced. We are learning to live our life. We become more and more authentic. Authentic in the sense, I am true to my own self and I am true with others. I am not something on the outside and something different on the inside, where I even have to hide for my own self or feel ashamed. And the good news or the beauty, the power of this approach really is that doesn't matter what my past was, doesn't matter what my current situation is. If I'm interested, if I use my willpower for that, I can do it. And gradually, you will clean up your life. Because, sorry, as many reasons are there to be happy, as many reasons are, that many reasons or even more reasons we can find why not to be happy. And even when major things happened in life, while we grow up or maybe in my adult life, yes, it is a little bit challenging, but it is possible. It is possible to redirect my life in such a way where I, oh, thank you. Where I learn and practice more and more to connect to my inner self, develop a very friendly, empowering, encouraging, supportive relationship with my own self. Instead of investing just in others, I have to learn to invest in my own self. And then I can also invest in others, because otherwise you can't sustain it. And you end up with a burnout, which becomes a problem. So not to blame, not to point the finger, definitively requires learning, understanding, and courage. It does take a lot of courage. Because I think the greatest challenge for humanity actually at this point in time is for human beings to face their own self. The goodness and also all the mistakes that we keep making. And so the more I ground myself in my own inner truth, we actually have something of value to give to the world. Even if it's just a smile, but that smile will be true, it will be authentic, it will be powerful, it will be empowering. Because it's not a mask that I'm wearing. And it's not that I'm smiling because of, or because I want to get something. No, it's a very genuine smile. It's coming from the heart that doesn't desire anything. It's a gift for you. And life becomes very more and more easy, more and more simple, but at the same time, more and more joyful. Not because of something or an event or some person, no, because you are connected to your own inner truth and your conscience is clean. Your conscience and your truth are deeply connected. And if I don't point a finger, but look within, with courage and determination, I'm able to find that peace, take responsibility, and feel very good about it. Now that's another thing that we are learning and has impacted me, helped me, tremendously, and it's continuing, is the fact that if you think about it, if our blueprint, if our essence, our original, eternal state of being is of goodness and nothing than goodness, there is no violence. And so nothing can justify any form of anger, any form of violence. But I myself first have to become non-violent within my own self. That means there is no reason to feel bad about anything. There is no justification to feel bad about the self or about something that I did or what happened. Because if I actually entertain these negative emotions, these negative thoughts, being judgmental, critical, punitive, it's like, or getting upset with the self, angry with the self. Now, these are different forms of punishment. Will not allow you to learn. And this is something I've learned from God. God will forgive, not forever, because God also will teach you, encourage you to learn from your mistakes so that I don't have to repeat them again. But first of all, God will embrace me if I have the courage to go in front of the ocean of love, go in front of the merciful one and be willing to forgive myself, to let go of that burden of feeling bad, of feeling guilty, of feeling ashamed. God will help me to come out of that. But I will also have to learn the lessons from the things I did wrong, the mistakes we made, so that I can improve gradually and eventually down the line don't have to do these things anymore. That means I'm less reactive, I'm more under self-control. I'm able to nurture myself, nourish myself with thoughts that uplift, that empower. And then eventually I can do that and give that also to others, to the world. But these are things that society do not necessarily teach us. We don't learn these things at school. But we learn it on our spiritual journey. The courage to face your goodness and live up to it. Take responsibility. Make an effort to live it, emerge it in your thoughts and in your actions, interactions. And instantly learn to forgive the self when things don't work out. And without any attitude, like a baby just tries again, gets up, or tries to get up and keeps trying, keeps experimenting, keeps exploring with that same form of innocence. To move on. I don't have to be perfect in order to have a clean heart and to feel fulfilled when I go to bed in the evening. And I don't have to be perfect in order to go in front of the ocean of love. But I consider myself to be a soul, a spiritual being, a child of God. I'm willing, I may be too weak, I may not fully understand, but I'm willing to learn. And I go in front of God. And God will help me. Taking responsibility for the self on the basis of love. Okay, so I'll pause here. And are there any comments? Any questions? Something you would like to share? Yes.
I find these teachings very valuable. I came here and studied for 4 years. And what I want to know is, how can these teachings?
What is your name?
My name is Ilan.
Ilan?
Yes.
Ilan is sharing here. Yeah.
How can
We can't hear her.
Yeah, I will repeat. We don't have the mic right now.
how can these teachings assist in creating positive solutions
How can these teachings assist to create positive solutions
on a larger scale that applies to the atrocities that are happening to us?
on a larger scale in the world? Now,
Because there are dark things happening, and you have to face the ocean of love, but you also have to set boundaries to protect oneself.
yeah,
So I would like to.
she's saying one has to face or to go in front of the ocean of love, but also set boundaries, protect the self from what is going on in the world.
Yes.
And then also like how to bring these teachings out into the world so that to help what's going on in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Because the topic is the blame thing, there's blame, but then there's accountability.
Blame, accountability, yeah. So this is something that we are learning is to always come back to the self, in the sense taking responsibility for the self so that I, under all circumstances, in all situations, all circumstances, as much as I can, that's where my attention needs to be, have a positive response. No matter what happens. What is going on, this is my responsibility, right? Individual responsibility. God is teaching, encouraging us that we take responsibility at that level, at the individual level. What are my thoughts, feelings, actions, and interactions? Can I take responsibility and give the best, even under provocation? Be my best, my true self, no matter what. And God will take care of the rest of the world. Because when you think about most of what is happening around us, you have no control over. I have no control. We are all part of it, but it's not that we have control over. But if I can connect with God, even if I can just connect to my true self and shine that light of peace and love on those who don't experience it and have good wishes, have mercy. Many times that's the best we can do. We break our heads and hearts about things that we cannot control. So that's one aspect. And then how do we protect the self? Now, in the past or in an ordinary way, what we all have been doing is defending, closing, punishing others by withdrawing my love, getting upset, getting angry with someone. I withdraw my love. I give you the silence treatment. I don't talk to you. I reject you. This is how we punish the self, each other. But we don't know that at the same time, I'm hurting myself more than anyone else. And so how we learn to protect the self is by actually coming into my true self-respect. And have these pure thoughts, positive feelings, positive vibes, and positive actions. That becomes my own protection, because there is also that law that says whatever you give out is going to come back to you. If I remain positive, light, and detached, in the sense emotionally uninvolved, I can stay connected with God. And I would think and say God has more power than all of us together. Now, why not using God's power, God's love, to share with the world? I won't be able to resolve the conflicts, but at least I can have good wishes for the one who causes problems and also for the one who suffers from the actions of the oppressor, perpetrator. Both need help. Both need to wake up. You understand?
I think so. So you mean if on a universal level, if we could somehow all have more of that mindset, things would change.
But even that change, you need God's help.
I mean, of course. Yeah.
And to bring a substantial change, I would think, is the task of God.
Yes.
It's not the task of a human or of few humans. And so to keep the focus and attention on the true self, on your higher self, that's where I can connect with God and let God do the rest.
How do you?
Sister, someone has their hand up. Someone has their hand up on the screen.
Someone help oh, sorry, yes. Nikhil, you would like to share?
Yeah, Om Shanti, sister. Can I ask one question?
Oh, sure.
Sister, it becomes very easy for me to connect to my own inner self when I'm all alone or I'm doing some work on my own. But when I get into interaction with people, especially someone who tries to provoke me, who tries to bring out anger inside me, at that time, it becomes difficult for me to control my response. It is like I have that knowledge that I should not react, I should respond. But at that moment, I lose that thought, I lose that knowledge, and I react in a more angry manner. How do I get this knowledge into practice?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And this is a very important aspect, because the harmony really has to be restored in relationships. And so learning about the self, practicing in the context while I am with others. So what I'm learning about myself and how I empower myself through meditation, then when I'm going through the day, I will also have to pay attention on my thoughts, on my awareness. And so to practice, and also having a healthy vision, healthy attitude towards colleagues, towards people around me, towards the world. Not to see them as angry people, not to see them, perceive them, someone is attacking me, but someone who is who also originally are beings of goodness, but they are under some influence. The same as I, when I react, then I am disconnected from my goodness. I am under some some other influence of anger and envy, or whatever it is. So in order to make our interactions more and more positive, pleasant, we need to practice a lot and pay attention on our own inner self, because if you're truly soul conscious, if you're truly connected to your inner goodness, then you will have the strength to see that same goodness also in the other one. No one is perfect, no? So if I learn to connect to my goodness and forgive myself and recognize when I myself under some influence, I will be able to recognize that on others too. So we don't judge, we don't form opinions based on what I just see with my eyes, but I know that's what I see. This is what is in front of me, but there's much more to that being. And that same person may have done a lot of good things. That same person may have had very, very bad experiences, and that's why that person is reacting. Maybe that person got very bad news and is reacting from that place. We don't know what is going on in anyone, and it's not up to us to judge others. But my responsibility is to see my own goodness and see the goodness in others. But that's the subtle goodness. I have to understand and accept and believe it. That when we all started our journey, we all were peaceful, happy beings, shiny, light, sparkling, joyful. But things changed. But if I remember that, now I can reconnect to it. I have to practice this in myself, and I have to practice that with others too. You understand? So coming out from that habit of seeing someone, oh, you are like this, you are like that. They are angry, they are upset, they don't like me, they attack me, So that's when my lower self is coming out, maybe. So I have to take care of that. But there's a lot to share, but I think we need to kind of close. Is there anyone else who desperately wants to make a comment or say something?
Sister, I just wanted to say that I think one of the most important things that I've learned, and one of the things that have helped me the most, is to pay attention to my thought. It helps me to think about what I'm going to say, if I'm going to say anything, if it's necessary. It helps me to identify my wasteful thoughts, and it stops me from making some of the mistakes that I've made in the past. So one of the most important things that I've learned over the past several weeks is just pay attention to my thoughts, and I can stop myself and have better thoughts, have good thoughts. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah. You see, just to round this whole thing up, is when there is ego, it's like it's all about myself. The whole world revolves around myself and everyone has to be there for me and has to do the way I want. There's no consideration for the other one. But if I can step out from that ego and connect to my true essence, then I will not be afraid or judgmental towards my own weaknesses, but also I will have a much more healthy vision towards others. And be considerate. Negativity, violence is the result of accumulation of a lot of darkness and pain and sorrow. So instead of punishing, we need to learn to have a lot of mercy. That's where my protection is. If mercy is an act of love, mercy I can only have if I'm strong enough and use my willpower to see the good, but then also see how this individual is now acting under some influence and is far away from its truth. Now this is mercy, and there's no need to get upset. If I lose the vision of goodness, if I do not connect to something good in the other, I am drowning. I am not able to stay happy. And so subtly this belief that others are like this, like that, they are bad, they are doing this, and then we justify it based on what they do, we justify to condemn and why we hate them and why they should be killed and they should be treated like this. But if I think like this, I am honestly not much different compared to the other one who is committing violence, if you think about it deeply. So inner strength is really to be able to remain loving. And love is not just a feeling, it's expressed in form of forgiveness, acceptance, mercy, compassion. Okay, so it got a little bit late. Let's do maybe for 2 minutes, short closing meditation. So just bring the focus of attention on that still point, center of the forehead, just behind the eyes. You can visualize sparkling little diamond. And I go within, holding the focus on that point of stillness. And I emerge that awareness that I am a being of love. I am a being of peace. I have compassion. I have acceptance. I have forgiveness. I encourage, empower, take responsibility. I use my willpower to remain connected to myself as this being, sparkling being of light, being of goodness, and bring in the power of the divine, the supreme being, the one with all powers. The Father of the soul, God, the ocean of peace, the ocean of love. From that point of inner stillness, that awareness and understanding of my own inner goodness, I am willing and courageous enough to open up to the presence and encounter with the divine. Coming under the influence of God's rays of light, God's love. This activates my own true love. I learn to be kind to myself. I learn to open the heart towards myself, to forgive, forget, to be merciful and compassionate. I return to an inner state of peace and calm, an inner state of joy. I let go darkness, and I embrace the light of true love and peace. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, sister. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Om Shanti.
Om
Thank
Shanti,
you.
sister. Thank
Good
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.